Airports are full of secrets no one tells you about, and if you don't know them, you're probably wasting time, losing money, and making your travel day way harder than it needs to be. I've spent years flying in and out of airports all over the world. Early mornings, red eyes, delays, missed connections, you name it. And somewhere along the way, I started noticing patterns, the little things frequent travelers do differently that almost no one else catches. In this video, I'm breaking down the airport secrets that actually matter, from where you should really set before boarding to the hidden tricks that can save you time, money, and stress. Because if you keep doing airports the way most people do, you're going to keep dealing with long lines, bad seats, missed opportunities, and those painful travel days that feel way longer than they should. Secret number 1. Get back, get lice. Let's start at the gate. We've all seen gate lice, travelers crowding around the boarding area long before their group is called. Here's why you should never be one of them. It's not only an etiquette thing, it's about efficiency. When you cluster at the doorway, you physically block the boarding lanes for passengers who really need to get through, like those with mobility issues or families with strollers. Airline crew have a term for it because it slows everything down. I've seen a boarding process grind to a halt because a sea of people anxious about overhead bin space wouldn't move. On top of that, you're standing up for nothing. Your seat is assigned. A smarter move? Find seating at the gate next door. You're close enough to hear announcements, but far enough to avoid the scrum. Flight attendants interviewed by Reader's Digest recommended waiting on the opposite side of the boarding area or even at an adjacent gate so the path stays clear. If you're worried about bin space, consider checking your bag or packing lighter. Smaller carry-on allowances on international airlines mean fewer people fight for bins and the process goes smoother. In my experience, relaxing a gate away with a book or podcast keeps my stress down and I still board at the right time. Secret number 2. The best seat on the plane for air sickness. Let's talk about what seat you choose if you're prone to motion sickness or turbulence makes you queasy. There's a sweet spot, the window seat over the wings. Flight attendants say this is where the plane's center of gravity provides the smoothest ride. The back of the plane bounces more, and the aisle seats deprive you of a horizon to focus on. A window seat lets you look out and orient yourself, which eases nausea. I learned this after a rough crossing to Miami where my stomach staged a coup in row 28. Ever since, I've paid extra to sit near the wings and I bring ginger candies and stay hydrated. Both tips flight attendants swear by. If you forget to eat lightly or overdo the in-flight snacks, sip water and do slow, deep breaths. It's amazing how much that helps. Secret number 3. How the plague spreads, germs anyway. Speaking of your seat, here's a germ secret that will make you rethink those pre-takeoff naps. Airplane windows, tray tables, and seat pockets are some of the dirtiest places you can touch. Researchers have found bacteria like Staphylococcus aureus and viruses including MRSA and influenza on these surfaces because planes get a quick trash pickup between flights, not a full scrub. A microbiologist quoted in Reader's Digest advises against resting your head directly on the window. If you rub your eyes afterward, you could introduce germs. Bring disinfectant wipes and give your tray table, armrests, and window area a good wipe down. And never dig around in the seat pocket. That's where dirty diapers and peanut wrappers live, according to crew anecdotes. A few seconds of cleaning can save you from catching the airport flu later. Secret number 4. Smoothly pass through security. Let's talk security. If you're the person sprinting through the TSA line and arguing with agents, you're doing it wrong. Flight attendants and travel pros emphasize that being calm and prepared gets you through faster. Having your liquids in a clear bag, electronics accessible, and shoes that slide off quickly. Don't try to sneak oversized liquids or joke about bombs. The staff hears it all day and delays the line for everyone. One crew member told me she watches people panic, chug their entire water bottle, then realize they packed a full-size lotion. Arrive with time to spare, but not so early that you wander shops for hours. Some insiders say the arrive 2 hours early advice is partly to get you spending more time in the terminal. If you travel often, invest in TSA pre-check or global entry. The lines are shorter and you can keep your shoes on. Secret number 5. Stay buckled up. Now for some subtle behavior that makes a big difference once you're on board. Keep your seatbelt buckled even when the sign is off. Clear air turbulence, the kind pilots can't see or predict, is increasing. Research shows severe turbulence over the North Atlantic jumped 55% between 1979 and 2020. The FAA reports that from 2009 to 2024, there were 166 serious crew injuries and 40 passenger injuries from turbulence. The difference is that crew members are up serving drinks while passengers can stay strapped in. I've watched coffee carts launch in the air during a surprise jolt, showering everyone in row 10. Buckling up protects you and protects the crew from getting hurt by flying bodies. When you see the crew take their seats, follow their lead. Turbulence might feel like the wings are going to snap off, but modern aircraft are designed to flex. Still, clear air turbulence can injure people, and the brunt of injuries fall on flight attendants. The AFA, the union representing thousands of U.S. cabin crew, calls clear air turbulence the most dangerous type because it's invisible. On a flight over the Atlantic a few years ago, we hit a pocket of invisible rough air. The beverage cart leapt and a crew member slammed into the ceiling. She spent weeks recovering. Since then, I always scan the aisle and mentally plan where to grip those hidden handrails if I need to return to my seat mid-flight. I also keep my belt loosely buckled when seated, even when the sign is off, to protect myself and the hard-working crew. Alright, everything we've talked about so far, that's just the surface level. What I'm about to show you next is where frequent travelers start playing a completely different game. The stuff you only notice after dozens, sometimes hundreds of flights. And this next one, it changes how you make your beverage service choice. Secret number 6. Skip the ice, coffee, and tea. Another hidden hazard? The water. Those free cups of coffee and tea brewed on board are made with water from the plane's storage tanks. Testing under the aircraft drinking water rule found wide variation in water quality, and researchers advise avoiding tap water on planes. In fact, a recent multi-year study analyzing over 35,000 water samples across 21 airlines found measurable contamination indicators, like coliform bacteria and even occasional E. coli violations, showing that water quality can vary significantly depending on the aircraft and maintenance practices. Many flight attendants refuse to drink it themselves. Bring an empty bottle through security and fill it at a filtered water station in the terminal. Water is free in most airports. Then skip the coffee unless it's served in a sealed bottle or can. Also, avoid ice cubes. They're made from the same tank water. Secret number 7. The check-in chicken trend. Here's a myth buster. Waiting to check in until the last second won't magically bump you to first class. A TikTok trend called check-in chicken encourages people to check in late, hoping to snag empty premium seats. Travel expert Katie Nastro says this might occasionally score an exit row seat, but the odds of landing business class are slim because airlines sell around 88% of those seats to paying customers. Worse, if a flight is oversold and you're last to check in, you could get bumped entirely. If seat choice matters to you, check in as soon as online check-in opens and pay for a better seat or use airline status upgrades. I learned this the hard way on a flight to Tokyo. I tried the hack and ended up wedged in a middle seat by the lavatory. Not worth it. Secret number 8. Revenue seating and duty-free traps. Let's continue with something you probably didn't know. Airports are designed to make you spend money and walk farther than necessary. Many terminals bolt down seating to maintain clear pathways and comply with accessibility regulations requiring at least 36 inches of clearance. The most comfortable chairs are often placed near retail zones to entice you into shops. This is called revenue seating. Meanwhile, signage might route you through duty-free stores even if your gate is elsewhere. In London's Heathrow Terminal 5, there's even a shorter way to fast-track security hidden behind a row of check-in desks. Look for signage or ask airport staff. Sometimes there's a nearly empty checkpoint just around the corner. In Denver, for example, a less-known bridge security entrance, now sadly under renovation, once whisked travelers straight to the A gates with almost no line. On the subject of duty-free, don't get seduced by the idea that everything is a bargain. At many airports, you can't take liquids over 100 milliliters through security on connecting flights, even if they're sealed. so that bargain bottle of whiskey may be confiscated at your layover. Duty-free prices aren't always cheaper either. You often pay less for spirits or perfume at home. Even if the duty is waived, airports recoup costs through inflated base prices. And if your ticket only allows one carry-on item, some discount airlines permit just a single 10-kilogram bag. That duty-free bag has to fit inside your suitcase or you risk paying a gate check fee. Secret number 9. Freebies to make your travel a little easier. There are freebies airports don't advertise. Bring an empty bottle and fill it at the hydration station to avoid $5 water. Most airports now provide free Wi-Fi. Use it to download entertainment before boarding. Your credit card might offer lounge access even if you're flying economy. And if the gate agent announces that the flight is full and overhead bins are limited, you can often gate check your carry-on for free. I've used this trick to avoid dragging my roller bag down narrow aisles while still skipping the baggage fee. While not exactly freebies, here are some tips that will save you some cash on your travels. Taxi prices from airports can be double what ride shares cost. Always check if Uber or Lyft operates from your arrival airport. Sometimes they pick up at a designated area and save you serious cash. And never exchange currency at the airport. Exchange rates at terminal kiosks are notoriously bad. Order currency online for pickup or withdraw cash at an ATM in your destination city. Secret number 10. A history of the boarding process. Now, let's dive deeper into the world behind the boarding door. For years, flight attendants in the United States weren't paid during boarding. Their pay clock started only when the aircraft pushed back from the gate. That meant all the smiling, heavy lifting, stroller stowing work they did for you before takeoff was essentially unpaid labor. Only in 2024 did major airlines like American and Alaska negotiate contracts that included boarding pay. So the next time your flight is delayed or you're annoyed at the slow boarding process, remember that the cabin crew has a lot on their plate and historically hasn't been compensated for that time. Offer a kind word instead of an eye roll. A Foder's gate agent explained that being rude to airline employees is the quickest way to ensure you stay stuck in a middle seat between a crying baby and a lavatory. Ask politely and they might be able to find you extra legroom. Treat them poorly and they will use what little power they have to leave you where you are. We've talked about the hard work your flight crew goes through to make sure you have a safe, efficient, and comfortable flight. But did you know that everything they do from the moment you step on the plane is rooted in safety? And speaking of safety, you'll probably be surprised to learn about this next secret. Secret number 11. Why the cabin lights are dimmed during takeoff and landing. You might have noticed that the cabin lights dim during takeoff and landing. This isn't to lull you to sleep or set a mood. It's a safety measure. Dimming the lights allows passengers' eyes to adjust to darkness so they can quickly orient themselves if there's an emergency evacuation. It also lets crew see outside hazards on the ground. It's the same reason window shades are usually required to be open, so both you and the crew can visually assess what's happening outside if something goes wrong. Every second matters in those first moments. So when the lights go down, buckle up, stow your phone, and take note of your nearest exit. That briefing you hear before every flight about counting rows to the exit? Do it. In smoke or darkness, you might not see the door, but if you know it's 5 rows behind you, you can get there. Secret number 12. Hidden features on your plane you may have missed. Airplanes are also full of hidden features most travelers never notice. Look under the overhead bins next time you walk down the aisle. Some planes have handrails built into the underside so crew and passengers can hold on during turbulence. If you're returning from the lavatory when the plane hits a bump, those rails are a lifesaver. Another secret, those little black triangles above certain windows mark the best spot to see the wing. Pilots and crew use them to quickly inspect the leading and trailing edges. If you're an aviation geek, sit near one of those triangles for a perfect view of the flaps moving during takeoff and landing. There's also a hidden button on many aisle seats that allows the armrest to flip up. Travel Plus Leisure notes that this button is under the armrest near the hinge. Its primary purpose is to help passengers with reduced mobility enter and exit their seats. Regulations require at least half of aisle seats to have movable armrest for accessibility. While it's tempting to use it to gain a bit of extra space after landing, remember that the armrest must be down during taxi, takeoff, and landing for safety. If you raise it once the plane is parked, be mindful of carts and passengers in the aisle. Another concealed feature is the external lock on the lavatory door. There's a small mechanism hidden behind the lavatory sign that allows crew to unlock the door from the outside. It's used for emergencies or to secure the lavatory during taxi and landing. Don't try it unless you're a crew member. Just know that someone can help if the door jams. And yes, those little ashtrays in the bathrooms still exist even though smoking has been banned for decades. They're required by the FAA so that if someone does break the rules, there's a safe place to extinguish the cigarette. Secret number 13. Where's the crew on those long flights? On long-haul flights, ever wonder where the crew disappears? Wide-body jets usually have hidden sleeping quarters tucked behind locked doors or above the cabin. Most twin-aisle aircraft include dedicated crew rest areas that are completely off-limits to passengers and often secured during flight. These aren't just perks, they're required. On longer flights, airlines operate with augmented crews and rotate pilots and flight attendants through rest periods to reduce fatigue and maintain safety. Aviation regulations even define different classes of rest facilities, ranging from simple reclining seats to fully enclosed bunk areas with sound and light control. Pilots work in shifts, so there are always qualified crew actively flying the aircraft. You won't see the entrance, it's intentionally hidden for security and privacy. But know this, when your crew disappears, they're not slacking off. They're recharging so they can safely handle anything that happens at 35,000 feet. Secret number 14. How early should you show up for your flight? What about getting through the airport faster? Many travelers swear by arriving at the terminal 3 hours early, but there's nuance. Travel experts still recommend arriving 2 hours before domestic flights and 3 for international ones. You never know when a security line will back up, especially now that Real ID is enforced. Even if you have TSA pre-check, there's always a chance you'll get pulled into the regular line. Here's what most people miss. Your arrival time isn't just about security, it's about protecting yourself from unpredictable variables like gate changes, long walks between terminals, and boarding cutoff times that happen earlier than you expect. My rule of thumb, for major hubs at peak times, give yourself that buffer. For smaller airports, check your airline's app to see current wait times. Don't arrive too early unless you plan to relax in the lounge. Secret number 15. Kindness still pays. Gate agents and flight attendants hold a surprising amount of sway when things go sideways. They can waive bag fees, move you to a better seat, or rebook you on a later flight. But they're human, and they're less inclined to help if you're yelling. A Fodor's gate agent confessed that she will happily leave an entitled passenger in the back row. Approach with a smile and a sincere, "How's your day?" You'd be amazed at what can happen. On a packed flight from Dallas, I overheard a man calmly explain that he was 6 foot 6 inches and would happily trade some frequent flyer points for a less cramped seat. The agent appreciated his polite tone and moved him to an exit row without charge. The guy next to him, who'd been huffing and throwing his boarding pass on the counter, stayed wedged in the middle seat. I'd love to know your personal airport hacks. Have you ever discovered a secret shortcut to a lounge or a tip that saved your sanity? Drop your story in the comments. Watch the next video queued up for you. Your adventure is just beginning.